Let me get directly into the real reason that I decided to do a quick show this morning. I think it's all about what's going on in Iran right now. This is according to Grok. I asked the question, what is the absolute up-to-date reporting on this? Because even my regular resources, I feel like they're a day behind. So here's what Grok had to say. On Saturday night, August 1st, into August 2nd, President Trump announced he would cancel a pending attack what I've been talking about for a week, and actually it's reported in the news, it's nothing special, is that he was telling Iran, look, we're going to get Israel back involved. We're going to create this massive attack. We're just going to keep pounding you and pounding you and pounding you until you say, Uncle. I actually started talking about this as a concept a couple, 3 weeks ago, and there have been a few individuals out there that have understood it, that this was what going to happen because Trump wanted the war to end by this weekend, the conflict, whatever. So that's what I've been claiming. It has to be over by this weekend. He needs the time, but he needs the time, before the elections, to get the gasoline prices down, the oil prices down, et cetera. This is what I've been claiming. I've been saying it over and over again. And I said, but he's enough of a statesman that he's not going to walk away without the deal he wants. I mean, he's going to be willing to lose in the midterms if necessary in order to get the right deal. He's not going to put out all this money, all this time, all this energy, all this grief and walk away. It's just not going to happen. That's just not the kind of person he is. He's also a guy who likes to win. He hates losing, and he's not going to lose. Okay. So Iran got a choice. The choice was we've given you every chance. And so we're going to blow you back to the beyond the Stone Age because you already live in the Stone Age. We're going to really destroy you if you don't come to the table and figure this out and do what we told you to do. And Iran seems to maybe have believed him this time. We'll see. Is that the deal isn't over? But this is how it's working right now. He stated that Iran and other Middle Eastern countries requested that the U.S. hold off because the perimeters of a deal have been agreed to, and that the U.S., with Israel's involvement in the commitment, would cancel the attacks subject to rapidly finalizing a deal. Notice the new term is rapidly finalizing a deal. In other words, we've got the framework. You got a couple of days. If you don't give us a final deal, and the president went on to say, look, maybe we'll meet in Europe and sign it on Tuesday or Wednesday. If you don't give me that deal in a couple of days, I'm going back in with the whole Megillah. And you'll see what I've been talking about. So key elements mentioned, of course, include the closing of the Strait of Hormuz and an end to Iran's nuclear threat, including them reducing their refined uranium to zero. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was among those who spoke with Trump and urged caution against these fresh strikes. Reports indicate a rough framework or outlines of a deal involving the U.S., Iran, and other countries with final details under discussion and expected to be announced shortly. Mediators, historically including Qatar, Pakistan, Oman, and others, have been involved in high rounds focused on Hormuz access, hostility cessation, including in Lebanon, sanctions, assets, and nuclear issues. All right, that brings you up to date on that. Now, you may be aware, maybe not, because it seemed to be a little bit kind of just a nothing burger in terms of the number of people reporting on this, but we've had back-to-back rollouts of FSD 14.3.6 and then 14.3.7. And again, I asked Grok to compile information about it. Began rolling this out on August 1st. That was the point seven was over the weekend. The official, it seems like it's only, of course, in the AI4 cars. The official release notes match those of the point six, which was just a couple of days before. And here's what they are. Key improvements, including an upgraded reinforcement learning stage for broader driving scenario performance, an enhanced neural network vision encoder for better handling of rare, low visibility conditions, 3D geometry and traffic signs, 3D geometry and traffic signs, a rewritten AI compiler runtime MLIR delivery with 20% faster reaction times. Also has reduced unnecessary lane biasing and also reduced tailgating. I've never seen mine tailgate ever. More decisive parking selection, pin prediction when you put the pin in, stronger responses to emergency vehicles, stronger response to school buses, also to right-of-way violators and small animals, better handling of complex intersections and unusual objects, better recovery from temporary system degradations, and improved driver monitoring like eye gaze, eyewear, variable lighting. I hope that means even less nag. The model is also unified across Actually Smart Summon, FSD, and robotaxis. So all of these things will apply to all three aspects. So we'll see, how this develops over the next few days, but here's a few of the early reports. Early owners report on X describes smoother rides with less brake pulsing than in 14.3.6, strong awareness, including cutoffs, and solid handling cutoffs, I'm sorry, and solid reaction times after initial drives of 100 plus miles, though there's some parking and lane change quirks that are persisting. So we'll see again as the week goes on, and apparently we're just going to have very, very fast iterations until we get to 15. Everybody's hoping for number 15. So Kenneth Steiner on a different report this morning, Kenneth Steiner, he's at ST 493037 Wonders. So if you write that down, or if you want to get to find out who Kenneth Steiner is and follow him, well, according to Boomer, I'm sure he means Boomer Mama, Tesla Boomer Mama, retail has no say in Tesla anymore because we don't have enough retail to matter. We're only at 21% or so of the total stock holdings now, down from 40%. He says, so Elon and others have effectively feared their way into retail, and many have bailed. I don't know exactly what that means, but I think what he's saying is that Tesla has been doing so poorly lately because of something Elon wanted to have happen, that people have bailed on Tesla stock. The retail community has bailed on Tesla stock, and that this was somehow a benefit to Elon, et cetera. And that he says it leaves us naked. So mission accomplished. He says, take it or leave it. Okay, so all I'm going to say is this, which is what I posted on X. It is irrelevant to me, and it should be irrelevant to you, what percent of ownership is retail. It doesn't matter at all. It's not a matter of control. It's not a matter of your vote having any meaningful impression on what the future holds. Yes, as a group, we might, but reality, no. My focus, personal focus, is on my personal expectations of future earnings with or without a SpaceX merger, and even if there's no other, if I'm the only retail person left standing. That's all I care about. I don't really care about the rest. I believe there's an 80% chance of a massive increase in value and a 20% chance of staying flat or going up in the only staying flat or going up about the same rate as the S&P. I think it's a very, very low likelihood. Don't you? So the fact that the stock has come down by 40% is not Elon Musk's fault. Some of it might be the communication from the last call, but I don't think there was anything deliberate about it. I really, really don't. I don't think there's any benefit. Everybody thinks there's this benefit of somehow getting the price of Tesla versus the price of SpaceX worked out. Well, what happened with SpaceX? So did Elon do that too? He drove the price of SpaceX down as well. How did that help? I mean, SpaceX is down in certain respects more. If you count the top all the way to the bottom, it's down more than Tesla. So apparently Elon is messing up. He hasn't been able to accomplish his goal. This is all nonsense. All right, so this is Randy Kirk. And then Nick Gibbs, he says, I keep getting questions about the course. He wanted to put out the list. He wants to put out a list of the questions and the answers. So I thought, okay, let's go ahead and do that. This is about his options crash course. He says, number one, do I have to sell? Do I, as a person who wants to do what he does, do I have to sell my Tesla shares? No. He says, none of my student clients sell their shares. We use the options method to generate extra income while the long-term position compounds. So you can use the new income to buy more Tesla shares if you want, or more SpaceX shares, or whatever you want to do with it. Go out and have a nice dinner, or two or five, or go on a cruise. Number two, do I really earn 1 to 4% per year? No, he says. Conservatively, it's 1 to 4% per month. If you have $100,000 invested, you're going to gain $1,000 to $4,000 per month. That's why I'm taking the course. I think that sounds like a wonderful idea. If you have 1 million, you can get 10,000 to 40,000 a month. Number three, can I actually do this? Is this so complicated that I'll never be able to understand it? He says, yes, it's completely learnable. I've had students making 1,000 to 20,000 in the first week after the class. Most people just haven't been shown how to use options correctly in the past. Number four, if this works, why have a course? He says, in other words, why would Nick Gibbs go to the trouble to put this course out if it works so well and he's doing so well with it? And I've had that question over the years many times about people that have become super, super wealthy, and then they're putting on courses and teaching other people how to do it. It seems odd, you know? Why would they bother? Well, he says, I've been financially independent for a long time. He's a kid. He's 35 years old. He's got 3 houses. He's independently wealthy. He doesn't have to work. He says, people in the Tesla community kept asking me to teach them what I'm doing. And so I saw a real gap. I wanted to help people because I'd like to see other people become financially independent, retire early if that's what they want to do, and make money in the up markets, the down markets, or the sideways markets without any kind of guru nonsense. You don't need me on a daily basis to tell you what to do. I teach the process. You execute it yourself. The goal is to teach you how to fish, so you don't need Nick in the future. Number five, aren't options dangerous? He says, any tool, if you don't know how to use it, can be dangerous. Or if you use it inappropriately, I would add. That's why we focus on using them properly. Now, I made tons and tons and tons of money in 2021, 2022, trading options. I mean, 33 times my investment in 12 months. But I tried to teach other people how to do it. And guess what? They didn't use all my methods. And I would call them back and say, how's it doing? And they were like, well, I lost money this morning. Well, yeah, okay, you lost money this morning. How are you doing so far? Well, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I had my rules. I had 10 rules. You follow the 10 rules, everything will be fine. You don't follow the 10 rules, you're going to have a problem. Anyway, same thing. I'm sure it's the same thing with Nick. If you don't follow the rules, if you don't do what he's telling you to do, you can have a problem. Number six, how much time does this take? Is that because when I was doing my options trading, it was from the opening of the market to the close of the market. And, I would be doing a few things on the side, but basically that's what I did all day. No, most students spend 15 to 30 minutes a day once they understand what they're doing. It's built for people with jobs and lives. Number seven, do I need a big account? Do I need to have $1 million or $2 million to do this? He says, no, it scales. I have students running this program with accounts under $50,000. Okay, well, how is this different from some other YouTubers that are out there, teaching people how to use options properly? He says, these other guys show surface level theory. I show you the real entry, management, exit strategies that he actually uses. It's the same process that produces me a 90% win rate. Now, that's exactly what I was doing as well. I just want to tell you, that's why I'm taking the class, because I want to see how to do it even better. But if you take your wins, if you take your 1,000 a day, it's going to be okay. It's one of the things I taught. Don't get greedy. Okay. We have a few spots left open in the September class. If you're interested, the information is down below. Please use my link down in my information down below if you want to jump into the class. By the way, I find that most people think that the course is um, very low priced. In other words, it's a really affordable course. Check it out down below, and you don't have to join to find out what the price is. Consumer sentiment. I didn't have time on Friday to put these reports out. These are really, really important reports. Consumer sentiment, that's the University of Michigan, which I've said, over time is very biased and very liberal, and they don't want Trump to win. But they couldn't help it. Their early month reading landed almost 12% above June. Broad-based improvements were seen across all groups by income, education, wealth, age, and political party. 5-year expected business conditions reached a 12-month high, though it remains well under its historical average. Despite recent gains, sentiment is 11% below a year ago, when people were just after Trump was elected, people were like, yeah, this is going to be great. And a generally somber view of the economy. Amid 5 years of elevated inflation, persistent high prices, consumers remain focused on pocketbook issues like purchasing power, while political or military developments remain more in the background. People are not that interested in what's happening in Iran. So, year ahead inflation expectations have ticked down all the way to 4.2% from 4.6 in June. Remember when the expectations were up around 7%. The current reading substantially exceeds the 3.4% in February before the Iran conflict began, along with all the 2024 readings. Long-run inflation expectations hold steady from last month at 3.3%. That's way above 2%, but it's way better than it was. All right, then we have the Chicago Business Barometer came out, and it edged up 0.9% to 57.6 in July. The barometer remained in expansion territory for a third consecutive month. The modest increase was driven by stronger new orders, largely offset by weaker supplier deliveries. So that's a problem. If you're selling more and you can't get the stuff. There was order backlogs, there was a negative employment, and there was not as much production. New orders rebounded 11.6%, consistent with the levels seen in May, which were the highest since January of 2022. Supplier deliveries pulled back and 9.5 points, more than unwinding June's starting rise. So don't know what's going on with those suppliers. However, some respondents noted persistent delays, particularly for electronic components. Order backlogs retreated 5.2 points, re-entering contraction after 2 months above the neutral 50. Employment declined 3.8 points, and that's in contraction territory for the fifth straight month. Again, as I've been pointing out, we've got no labor. The labor has been sent home. And so zero to just a few percents above zero is what you can expect for a long time. Production eased 1.4 points, but remained in expansion for a seventh consecutive month. Prices paid were essentially unchanged, easing 0.1 points. Respondents continue to cite geopolitical factors and elevated energy costs as pricing pressures, although some respondents reported improving price stability. Well, that's a pretty good report. I'm sorry that I held up 2 days to give you such optimistic news. All right, that's all I got for you today. Sign up for Nick's class. You're going to be glad you did, I think. I mean, I'm going to take it in August, but based on what I'm hearing from others, you're going to be glad. And you know what? For the price that you're going to pay for this class, you're going to get a master's in college or better course in options, not just in Nick's method, but every aspect of the options trading process in about 10 to 12 hours or something like that, depending on how long you want to stay. So I think it's well worth it. That's my opinion. You can go down and click below and decide whether it's worth it to you. This has been great talking to you. I'm out of here.